Welcome to the Fire Sprinkler Podcast with Chris and Logan. This episode of the Fire Sprinkler Podcast is brought to you by Chromalox. Chromalox is the only UL-listed heat tracing available for sprinkler mains, branch lines, and standpipes. Chromalox has an extensive line of electric heaters to freeze protect or maintain temperatures on sprinkler systems, above-ground storage tanks, and more. Visit www.chromalox.com for more information. That's www.chromalox.com. Hey everybody, this episode of the Fire Sprinkler Podcast is my conversation I had with Chris Myer from Chromalox. Chromalox are the guys that got me to the show. I had sat down and had a conversation with Chris Myer while I was there, just because heat tracing in fire protection is something that I'm not that knowledgeable on. Be the first to admit that I don't know everything. So, said it 1,000 times. That's why I have these conversations, so I can learn more and more about the industry. If you're smarter than me, which most of you are, and you want to come on and have a conversation, email chris@firesprinklerpodcast.com and let's chat. It's awesome. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. Chromalox was the guys that got me to the show. Sat down with Chris, had a conversation. He explained to me the listing process for getting their product approved, why there was, I believe, 7 other manufacturers that the listing was removed from, and Chromalox stepped up and decided to go for it. So this is the story about why Chromalox decided to do this. Big thank you for everybody. I've had a big I've had a big increase in subscribers and viewers and listeners in the past 2-3 months. NFSA was huge. NFPA was huge. Fire Sprinkler Podcast is starting to take off. It's going very, very well. Still the cheapest sponsorship dollar. If anybody's looking to sponsor an episode, email me, chris@firesprinklerpodcast.com. Share my stuff on social media. If you're not looking to sponsor the podcast, share the stuff and share it on your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I don't think you can share on Instagram. Anyways, share my stuff. #Fire Sprinkler Podcast if you find anything that's interesting, or if you want me to bring it up on a future episode. Topics of discussion. If you have something you want to learn more about and you think that I could help get that information from somebody, email me, send me a topic of discussion, tag me in a post on social media if you want me to learn more about it. Thanks everybody for the support. Without further ado, here is my conversation I had. It's a little bit loud in the background because we were actually sitting at the Chromalox booth at the NFPA Expo. So just disregard everything else you hear. And here's my conversation with Chris Myer from Chromalox. Hey everybody, Chris here, Chris Logan from the Fire Sprinkler Podcast, sitting here with Chris Myers from Chromalox, the NFPA coverage sponsor of the Fire Sprinkler Podcast. Chris, what do you think of the expo so far?
So far, it's a great show. It's huge. Lots of vendors here. Fire sprinkler specific fire panels. It's been great. Surprised at a little bit at how big it is, how many vendors are here, and really just the international, the global attendance that's at the show as well. Yeah,
upstairs, I don't know if you saw it, upstairs on the second level, there's a map where the attendees can take a magnet off a board and put it on a steel map of the world. And I went up there yesterday morning, the first day the expo was opening, and it was already covered with places all over the world. There's an aisle full of manufacturers from Korea. There's attendees coming up and talking from all over. It's unreal, the size and the quantity of people and quality of fire protection people that are here. Are you having a lot of people come through and ask a lot of good questions about the product?
Yeah. Most people are looking at the product. They're a little bit familiar with heat trace. They're a little more interested in what's changed. They're not familiar with the new codes and what's going on. So we've had a lot of AHJs and things like that have stopped by and are interested in getting some updated training to their people on the new codes and what the standards say and things like that.
So what are the main things that not set you apart from everybody else, but put you in that exclusive category for heat tracing relating to fire protection? What's that defining thing for Chromalox?
Most of it's built around the controls. The controls are essential in the new standards. That's where most of the testing that's been done revolved around when we went through the UL program. So I think the control piece being as important as it is, kind of having some redundancy. It's almost a fail-safe system,
which is good in fire protection.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, I would say that the controls is kind of what sets us above and beyond at this point in time. I mean, obviously the heating cable and the quality of the parts and pieces is high up on the list as well. But at this point, I would say the controls.
So, what got Chromalox to the point you guys are now in the fire sprinkler specific industry? I understand there was a change to the standard 6 years ago.
2016.
2016,
yeah,
okay.
Yep, so 3 years ago. UL, there were 8 vendors worldwide that had a fire sprinkler approval through UL. UL, at that time, released a new standard called UL 515A. At that point, they delisted all 8 manufacturers.
Okay.
To this point, Chromalox is the only manufacturer that has re-achieved that approval for heat trace on fire sprinkler, not only mains but standpipes and branch lines as well. Branch lines has always been a big, not a no-no, but a lot of confusion in the industry. So that program was made very rigorous. As I mentioned earlier, it was mostly revolving around the control piece, not really the heat trace itself.
So what did you guys do different than everybody else, and what were the actually, why don't we start with the changes to the ULC? So ULC delisted everybody else. They wanted to start from square one.
Right.
What were the new standards that everybody had to follow, and why was Chromalox able to achieve that before anybody else?
I think we were in a pretty good spot with our controller. We had a controller that's called an ITC that was on the industrial side. We were lucky enough to design that well enough that it kind of fit with the fire sprinkler application. There were a few things that we had to change, a few things that we had to do to accomplish or pass the testing in the new standard. But for the most part, we were in a pretty good spot with the control the way it was in the current state. Some of the things that they changed that were big for us, that made a big difference. One was CPU failure. So that wasn't in the previous standard. So that was something that we had to tackle and figure out a way to announce. Basically, if the controller is telling the heat trace to turn on, but the CPU has failed in a way that it can't,
right?
Then that has to have an alarm and be notified. The other big thing was they introduced a standard called went blank. There's a new standard for the controllers for fire panels.
Okay.
And they subject under 515. They use that UL standard, parts of it, to test the heat trace controllers.
Okay.
So one of the big ones was a voltage-induced stress test on the panel at levels that in the industrial world and across the board we weren't really familiar with. Right. It's a 6,000 volt test. So we had to kind of up the protection of the panel to get it to the point where when it gets hit with that 6,000 volts that it operates normally with no issues.
Yeah, you want all aspects of your fire protection equipment to work the way it is.
Yeah.
Heat tracing, obviously water, sprinklers, etc.,
Right.
alarm devices, everything. So you guys have the heat tracing, which is exclusive to Chromalox as far as being an approved listed UL device for sprinkler systems, including the branch lines. The branch lines throws a lot of people off.
Yep.
That's the main thing when I started telling people that Chromalox was sending me to the NFPA convention. Thank you very much, by the way. The first thing they asked me when I would say, like, I'm here with Chromalox, they're the only listed heat tracing for fire sprinkler. The first thing out of probably 90% of the people's mouths was, is it listed for branch lines? I said, absolutely. It's listed for all aspects of fire protection. And I didn't know that. So hopefully with the podcast and the social media stuff that we've been doing a lot lately, hopefully a lot more people understand that there is a solution out there as far as heat tracing is concerned, and are not just going back to the same old ways where I don't know about in the U.S., but in Canada, there's still a lot of people using unlisted heat tracing on fire protection. And you can only tell them so many times, like, it's not listed, it's not approved, you need to get the proper stuff in here.
Yep.
So what else does Chromalox have as far as freeze protection for the fire sprinkler industry?
One of the things that's I guess a little unique to Chromalox is that we're not just a heat trace company.
Okay.
We make a lot of different electric heaters. So one of the applications within the fire sprinkler world is the storage tanks.
Right.
So Chromalox makes an immersion type heater that can be inserted into the tank. It has replaceable elements where if something were to go wrong, if an element were to fail, those elements can be replaced without draining the tank, which is a big thing in the industry.
Yep.
So that product, I mean, a lot of people in the industry use heat trace for tanks.
Yep.
It's a viable option. But in Chromalox's world, we always kind of say, well, it's not the best option.
Right.
We have other solutions that are kind of better from an install standpoint, a maintenance standpoint, when it comes to tanks.
Okay, awesome. So obviously the heat tracing for the water tanks, NFPA 22 compliant as well. They're all listed and approved for all aspects of above ground storage tanks as well.
Yeah, I mean it's a standard, just a standard approval for pipes and tanks. The same types of tests would apply whether it's a tank or whether it's a pipe.
Okay. So, see, we don't get into a whole lot of
It's a heated surface for the most part.
Okay, interesting. We're at booth 1741 at the NFPA convention here in San Antonio, Texas. By the time this gets released, I'm very confident the expo is going to be closed down. What else does Chromalox offer, even outside of fire protection?
So we have kind of two wing. We have an industrial side of the business.
Okay.
We do the commercial side as well, which is kind of where the fire sprinkler falls under. There's hundreds of applications, from anything from snow melting applications to just standard freeze protection on piping,
right,
all the way up to oil and gas, power gen type plants where they're doing process maintenance and things like that. And again, it's not just heat trace. It's the heat trace, the controls, and all the different types of electric heaters that we can use across the industry. So it's really almost a turnkey solution for the most part.
Yeah, safe to describe Chromalox more as a freeze protection as far as a heat tracing company.
I mean, a lot of what we do, the majority of what we do is freeze protection.
Yep.
But we also do a lot of process maintenance. We have higher temperature cables that will allow us to maintain much higher temperatures in the 300-400 degree range.
Wow.
And up as well. We have metal sheath cables that we make that go up as far as 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So we kind of cover the whole from freeze protection all the way up to the high temperature process maintenance as well.
Awesome. If somebody wants more information on the products that are available from Chromalox, where do they get that information?
They can go to our website, www.chromalox.com. Okay. Chromalox is CHROMALOX.
Yep, absolutely. That was one of the first things that I was typing it into Google, and I would get the MOLOX.
Yep.
Chris, thanks for bringing me down to NFPA. Yeah. I appreciate it greatly. More information, reach out to Chris Myers at Chromalox. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Looking forward to it.
Hey everybody, just one more final thank you to Chromalox for their support of the Fire Sprinkler podcast, as well as all the other vendors at the NFPA convention down in San Antonio. I spoke with a lot of people, a lot of positive feedback. If you have any ideas on how I can improve the podcast or topics of discussion, things like that, please email me, chris@firesprinklerpodcast.com. Because this product is for you. The podcast is for you. It's not for me. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I listen to it in the car. I do sometimes when I get bored and I want to hear how I sound. Anyways, that's beside the fact. Message me what you want to learn about. Message me what you want to hear about. If you want to get somebody's opinion on something that's going on in the industry right now, I've got a lineup of a couple people that I'm looking to get on. It's just a timing thing. Expect some good conversations with some super smart people in the industry. Again, thanks everybody for the support. I really, really appreciate it. And this podcast would be nothing without the people who listen. So thank you. And we'll talk again soon.